You're not lazy, you're not depressed, and you're not unmotivated. Look, I was right there, full of shame and guilt because I was in a habit loop of sticky sock syndrome, scrolling, sleeping in, eating carb meals. I was busting a nut in the sock. I was overeating on the carbs. I was skipping the gym. I was thinking I was him, but in reality, I was delusional, bro. I was delusional in the worst way, thinking like, life happens to me, you know? And now I realize that it all happened for me. Looking back on this story, I'm going to give you guys 5 principles to how to get out of this so-called rut or depression that you think you're in, because you're not depressed. You are literally not depressed with some disease that's inflicted on you from external sources. I'm here to show you how I got out of this situation with 5 principles that truly changed my life. And that's all I'm here to do, is to help you see this thing through. All right, I'm riding with you guys every step of the way. First thing I had to do was realize that I was identifying myself with the low point. I wasn't the low point, right? There's a difference between some of the habits and choices and mistakes that I made that I hadn't forgave myself for versus who I am called to be and the path I'm called to walk in this life. Those are 2 different things. And I was able to separate those mentally and be like, okay, I fucked up, but I'm not a fuck up. Yeah, I fucked up, but I can change. I can fix this. I can fix my life. Yeah. Step 1 was like, okay, I'm going to commit to this journey. And that's exactly what we did. Mentally, I separated me from the habits, and I acknowledged that I don't suck, but those habits do. And I had a phone call with my boy Dakota that changed my life. My best friend of 10, 15 years called me up. Yo, Joel, you still out there in the LA crushing it? You cutting the celebs, right? Oh, yeah. Life's good, man. Life's good. How are you doing, bro? Oh, bro, I'm in bliss. I'm walking barefoot, man. I'm going to the beach, surfing, closing deals. Then I go home, me and my girl, we watch a movie, man. Life is great. I'm pushing forward in every area. And I was like, damn, I know I'm doing something wrong because I can't answer like that. I wanted to talk about you, not me, because there's some shit I'm doing that I'm not too proud of, bro. I'm going to keep it real with you. And he's like, what's wrong, man? And I told him, like, bro, I haven't felt joy, peace, enlightenment, or anything above pride on the vibration scale in a long time. Like, I'm basically depressed, bro. Like, something's off with me. I'm beginning to identify with this low point I'm at emotionally. This is what the modern world would label as depression. Napoleon Hill, he says in his book, Outwitting the Devil, that every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success, but only when one recognizes that most failures are a temporary defeat. So this was the key for me, was to just admit it. Like, you know what? I fucked up. I don't really like my life right now because of my habits. My habits ain't been too good the last few months, the last year, if I'm honest. The last 18 months, if I'm honest. I've been deviating a lot in my character, slowly over time, letting shit get more and more comfortable, going the wrong direction. Looking in my past, you're not going that way, motherfucker, turn around. Look up, right? And so I admit to myself the Malcolm X quote. Malcolm X said, that which you do not hate, you will eventually tolerate. I had to admit, bro, I don't really like my life. I'm not too stoked about this shit. The phone call with Dakota was basically the realization that I'm not stoked about my life right now. And there's no wonder why every time I try to approach a girl in this phase of my life, she's not into me. Because I'm putting off this vibe of a dude with sticky sock syndrome. You want to shake my hand? I got sticky socks. Nobody wanted to shake my hand. How would you feel if you tried to shake the hand of a dude with sticky socks? So every cold approach, Instagram, DM, even the dating apps, I was getting no play. Like in real life, I walk up to a shorty that I thought was like a good, viable option for me. And she's like paying me no mind, not interested. And I'm like, damn, she's tripping. And then I realized the world was reflecting back to me how you would treat a guy who has sticky socks. Like, you don't want anything to do with that dude. I just got up out of that situation, bro. Stay from around me. Get up out of there. I respect you once you're out of there, but not while you're in it. And so they reflected to me how I viewed myself. The life was a mirror, not a window. And my lack of personal development is what caused this. Like, now I realize that I had no self-worth because I hadn't been living the character of who I could be. I was living the poor habits. The lack of self-worth came from a lack of self-actualization, a lack of self-development. Personal development is the key to increasing our self-worth. I know all this now, but back then, I realized that I was still my biggest problem, and I was going through life sucking at being me. I was sucking at life. Self-investment is self-love, right? So I just didn't invest in myself. And Napoleon Hill says, another quote on failure, he says that failure is always a blessing when it forces one to acquire knowledge or build habits that lead to the achievement of his major purpose in life. So I just needed to get clear on what that target even was. And that brings me to principle number 2. In order to get clarity, first I had to stop breaking character. I was still my biggest problem. I had to stop the back steps, bro. Every day, neglecting who I could be, deviating who I could be. I needed to get back into alignment and look above, like look within, like who could I be? Let me start operating from that man. And the first step was to stop those vices and back steps and make some damn changes. At this time, I remember my client told me he was struggling to quit that vape pen, that THC pen. He had been telling me about this for months, and he wanted to quit because it was making him lazy. It was making him complacent. He said, bro, I just don't know how to quit. I saw in that moment how he was really a mirror for me. Life is a mirror, not a window. So I was looking at this situation like, oh, this is actually a chance for me to level up. My client telling me he can't quit the THC pen. The anger I feel directed at him is actually at me. This was the first time in a long time that voice, the very faint little whisper of the other self, what Napoleon Hill calls the other self, was telling me to do the bold thing, to snap not only him, but me out of this so-called depression, this so-called rut, right? Fuck a rut. I'd never be in a rut again, bro. I knew in that moment if I didn't garner the strength to change, then my weakness would be his way out. I knew that this was a chance for a massive level up by becoming the source of what I was seeking. And in that moment, everything clicked. It became bigger than me. It became bigger than me. I realized that this entire rut, this entire depression, I was being a selfish fuck. I confessed it to him like, look, bro, I've been smoking too. You know, I started off with a joint on the weekends, on a Sunday night. If I had a great week, then I'm good. Sunday night, I can have a few puffs. I told myself I wouldn't even smoke the entire thing. And then I took myself a little pat on the back and I said, Joel, you deserve more comfort. That's what I told myself. And so I started smoking on Saturday nights, really because I had no social life. So to deal with that pain of being this lone wolf introvert who sits in his room and magically tries to be a magician and make his life happen with a vision board instead of action. All right, it's painful. Let me just smoke another joint on Saturday night. And then you know what, bro? Somehow it turned into me smoking a few days of the weekdays. And then I told him my ultimate truth that I haven't told anybody. That I had somehow deviated to allow myself to smoke every single day, 7 days a week, not only at night, which was my first rule, but that I was now smoking throughout every single day. Basically being high all day was like my new reality. Sitting around watching movies high all day. And this went on longer than I planned it to. And I just went from just the weekend to now every day of the week. And he's like, yeah, bro, but for me, I can't help it because it helps me relax. It's making my brain foggy and all that, but it's addicting, bro. And I was like, fuck that. You can't stop a fucking THC pen, a vape pen, bro. I was like pissed at him. I was judging him. And then I realized, no, bro, you're pissed at yourself. I was pissed at me. I said, bro, I got one last joint in my cupboard, bro. I'm going to go flush that bitch down the toilet. And that's exactly what we did. We stopped the haircut in the middle of his fade. I walked to the cupboard. I grabbed the last pre-roll out of my cupboard. And I said, walk with me, bro. Let's walk to the bathroom. Take a little tour of the apartment. We get to the bathroom. I open the door. I look in that mirror. As soon as you walk in the bathroom, you look in the mirror. Yep, this is what we're doing. The other self took control of me. The old guy wasn't in control anymore. The devil was gone, bro. The higher self said, yep, looked at me in the mirror and said, you know what to do. You know what to do. Yeah. Walk over to the toilet, open it up, drop the joint, flush that bitch down the toilet. Flush that bitch down the toilet. Flush that bitch down the toilet. Right now, bro, you got something you got to flush down the toilet, bro. I had to. If I was still smoking a joint every day, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And, bro, that was a life-changing decision to flush that bitch down the toilet. I hope you take this moment to flush that bitch down the toilet. Go ahead, bro. Take control of your life. In that moment, for the first time in years, I was no longer drifting. I finally began to be present during the pain and take the steering wheel back of my life and direct it towards where my intuition and my conscience have been directing me all along. All I needed was a clear vision of what that was. And that leads me to point number 3. Now that you can see again, and point number 3. Now that you can see again, establish a clear goal, target, and mission statement for your life. Now that your socks aren't sticky, put your foot down and walk this path of your new life, right? Because there was other habits I was doing. Like I said, I had to stop not just smoking, but once I stopped smoking, I stopped all the other vices. No more smoking a joint every day, but also no more drinking, no more casual hookups, no more overeating, binge eating, no more massive cheat meals, no more skipping the gym, sleeping in for hours without the alarm clock. I went full savage mode, bro. And the first sign of a drifter, Napoleon Hill says, he is always engaged in doing something definite through some well-organized plan, which is definite. So you have to decide exactly what you want from life, and then you have to create a plan for attaining it. So now that I could see again, and I wasn't energetically attached to the fuck-ups, and I cured my sticky sock syndrome, I wrote out my long-term goals. 220 jacked, time, financial, and location freedom, and revered around the world for a positive impact on people's lives. Somehow I knew that if I could achieve those 3 things, there's no way I could ever be in a rut or depressed or in a sticky sock syndrome phase habit loop ever again. I knew that like my life would be better. I won't hate my life. I admitted and was honest that I hated my life, but if I became jacked, if I became financially, time, and location free and was revered around the world for a positive impact on people's lives, I knew there's no way I could ever descend and deviate in my character and my life circumstances that low point ever again. And to be honest, I didn't have another choice. There was no other way out of this thing. I was either going to be invisible and live that mediocre life existence, or I was going to rise up to the man I could be. And this simple life mission statement became a glimmer of hope. And truthfully, it didn't matter if this was a perfect plan or not, because imperfect action was the key. Another Napoleon Hill quote from this book, Think and Grow Rich, from this book, Outwitting the Devil, he says, "The only reason people drift is because they do not have a plan. Weak plans have a way of becoming strong if definitely applied. Definiteness of purpose plus definiteness of plan by which the purpose is to be achieved will generally succeed, no matter how weak the plan may be." Imperfect action was my key. So now that I can see again, I've admitted, hey, I don't really like my life. I'm going to make a plan. Doesn't matter if the plan is perfect. I'm going to start walking the path. Principle number 4 was to create a program that I could follow daily that would be in congruence with this new man I was creating. A daily conduct of the motherfucker who's 220 pounds jacked, who is time, financial, and location freedom, and who's revered around the world for his positive impact on people's lives. And then I need to detach from the outcome and focus solely on the steps. My mentor told me that the man who admires the steps is a man who can't be stopped. Around this time, I got a phone call with Jeff Logan. I actually booked a 15-minute coaching call with him that might have costed like $10 a minute. I can't even remember the exact price, but it was worth every penny and more. And on that call, I said, look, bro, I'm hitting this quarter life crisis. My birthday, 25th birthday, is coming up in a couple of days, and there's no one better I can think of that's going to help me get out of this rut and this quarter life crisis I'm in than Jeff Logan. Like, you're a G, bro. I saw how you manifested your entire journey to become a multimillionaire, dad, actor, model, CEO, and jacked, tatted, handsome dude. Like, I need to be like you, bro. But I'm far away from it, and I used to enjoy the process of building my life towards it, but now I'm lost, I'm confused, and I feel like there's a relentless inner critic that's going to beat me down if I don't stand up and face this thing. And he said to me one sentence that I wasn't really ready to hear. It kind of shocked me, and it might shock you. And it was based off of my diseased mindset of drifting, where I was talking about this quarter life crisis. And he said, listen to me, Joel. There's no such thing as a quarter life crisis. Change your thoughts, change your actions, change your beliefs, and you'll change your life. Change your language. He was basically telling me, like, don't talk about yourself like this, bro. Don't claim that you're in a rut. Don't claim that you're in a quarter life crisis. That only exists if you invent it. Humans invent diseases. We invent diseases. You're inventing a quarter life crisis on yourself, Joel. Is that what you want? Because you have permission to choose whatever reality you want. You're entitled to that. He was just giving me the opportunity to look at it from a different perspective, from the perspective of a man who has already overcome this. And I wasn't ready, to be honest. That information he gave me there, I was still not ready to face the mirror and look at this thing head on. I still wanted to blame outside the window and say like, no, but life is hard. Like these girls in LA, they want millionaires. Why they want all this top stuff? Nah, bro, you're a G. If you would just operate like a G, you could have anything you want. That's what he was trying to tell me. And I was still looking for a way out. I was still avoiding myself, and I was looking at life like a window. I just didn't want to face the mirror, and I was a victim in my head, and it was hard to see that the problem was me. I was the problem. My actions were the problem. My thoughts were the problem, and my fucking habits and constantly ignoring my intuition was my biggest fucking problem. And now I see it clear as day. That was the karmic debt that I had to pay. For years, I had been a pretty boy influencer. I was getting all these views, haircuts, but I wasn't helping anybody. I was paying for not only listening to my intuition when I felt called to share what worked for me on social media, but I didn't because of my fear of criticism. I was also being punished for not listening to my intuition. Every time God gave me clarity, I didn't listen anyway. So he was like, let me give this clarity and this progress to someone who actually follows the call. And a great quote from Alexis Carrel, he says, a man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he is both the marble and the sculptor. And that right there is when I realized that I'm going to have to completely change who I am. Like, sure, I've been in a rut in my past, but I can't claim it anymore. I can't look for a handout. Jeff Logan can't even help me. Only me. And that was daunting at the time because I had like a shitty mindset towards progress, towards doing the work. I looked at the work as like painstaking instead of like enjoying and taking pride in the fact that no one shows up like me. Now I think a lot differently. But this is the principle that saved me the most, which was I began to fuel greatness. This final principle was the most dramatic impact that I had because I heightened my vibration through every single day, through either burpees, through HIIT training, through strength training, or even bag work. Ba, 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 ha. You know, and that really changed my frequency every day. Because now instead of shame and guilt and low frequency desires, now I'm moving up. It's really impossible through peak performance in the gym where you push past anything you thought was possible in your rep ranges and your PRs and the amount of weight you can lift, or even just in the amount of running you're doing. And when you think you're going to throw up, you push even farther. That's impossible to not be proud of yourself after you accomplish that feat. And a lot of people trash their body and think that there's no karmic debt to pay for that. I experienced that there was. Like, I knew I had more in me, but I wasn't using it. The next thing for me was following strict macros every day. In order to fuel greatness, I needed 1,800 calories, 203 grams of carbs, and only 40 grams of fat. Just enough protein to make sure that I was packing on muscle, preserving all the muscle, and just enough fat and carbs to get me the bare minimum of what I needed so that my vibration could stay high. When we're overeating, when we're taking for granted the biggest blessing of life, which is the abundance of food we have, of resources we have, it's impossible to be grateful. So I began eating clean foods. I only could eat chicken breasts, sweet potatoes, egg whites, Greek yogurt, some fruits, a little bit of oats, stuff like this, the bare essentials. Over-consuming food was one of my most ungrateful habits as far as what began me to drift. Once I started making money as a barber, Uber Eats, meal preps every day. Didn't have to think about food. I could eat the best of the best. Next thing you know, I'm comfortable. Next thing you know, I'm smoking a joint on the weekend. Next thing you know, I'm fapping. Next thing you know, I'm scrolling. And by then, I'm a full zombie, drifting. Over-consuming food is so ungrateful because you're neglecting this physical body, this gift that we've been given from above. And when you eat less, when you work out harder, that's when you tap into the infinite source of intelligence. And that's when it's no longer just about you. Like overeating makes it about you. I'm eating less now so that I can show up. So that I can show up on camera, right? So, in summary, the process this took about 3 to 6 months to get me ripped and in the best shape of my life mentally, physically, and it destroyed any depression and anxiety. that was man-made inside of me. And as a truthful statement, the way I could end this is saying, I completely changed. I became a brand new version of me. And I started going as hard as I could, mind, body, and soul, across the board in every area of my life. An intense, painful reflection, intense, painful workouts, and a savage diet is what allowed me to see how ungrateful I had been and provided me a new hunger for life again. Now I see the importance of progression and how it was directly linked to my self-respect. I stopped progressing for over a year, and as a result, I lost respect for myself. And then I got back on the path of my purpose and gained it all back and more. No amount of celebrity haircuts or Instagram followers are going to build my internal self-worth. A high level of self-worth is through self-investment and working towards the best of myself in every area across the board. My vision was not up for debate. My best life had to become non-negotiable, and misery and karmic debt would be at the door waiting if I ever chose not to answer the call. Let's go!